So we did a similar video on Monday, and please go back and watch that. Even if you're watching another Monday, just find the Monday I'm talking about. But as we are getting into 2025, and we can see what direction, again, we did it with WWE, and now see what direction AEW is headed on. Here's just 10 things I think they should do, and no, I know nothing. Now, 10 actually ties into a stupid conversation that's going on the internet right now, and literally, I think it is awesome that AEW has decided to run the smaller venues and basically just cater to the place that they find themselves in right now, because the crowd, ever since they started doing this around about 6 weeks ago, whenever it was, has been awesome. They've been loud, they've been proud, they've been making a lot of noise, and that's all you really care about if you're watching it from a television point of view. As long as it sounds like there's a lot of people there, then it feels like there's a lot of people there. And I think what has happened, like for example, I believe, and I could be wrong, please forgive me, but I think AEW All in 2025 has sold around about 12,000 tickets so far. You get people going, oh man, it's so rubbish. It's probably going to end up around about 25,000. That is amazing. If you actually go back through the history of pro wrestling, companies not named WWE doing that many people in the modern history of sports entertainment is awesome. And we shouldn't want to chase that away. We should want more of it because it makes wrestling better. It makes the industry better. It means there's more opportunities for wrestlers to work. And I don't want to go back into what we talked about yesterday, but I totally believe that Penta was able to get the reaction that he did do because of his AEW run. It just makes nerds like you and I excited because like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I really like the smaller arenas. I thought the Hammerstein Ballroom felt excellent when they did that, and I'm sure there'll be other venues they go at too. And I've said this on a few videos now, to the point I think I'll have to make a specific video about it because some people are mad, and more power to you. I appreciate the madness. But given that they are sort of existing within their own niche at the moment, WWE has leveled up to such a degree. Now when I turn on AEW, it really does feel like an alternative. It feels like a very specific type of wrestling, and I actually prefer it. It actually gets me more excited, and it almost feels like a garage band in their garage. Stupidest thing I've ever said, which is actually being really disparaging to AEW because they're making a lot of money. Trust me, if any garage band was making that money, they'd be like, dudes, we've done well. But I think it's a really good choice, and I think it shows an awareness from AEW, and I bet they benefit it from down the line. I bet if we talk about this in 2026, they would have got a bit bigger, the numbers will be up, and maybe everybody will just calm down because no, I didn't realize this in 2025, but we're only allowed to enjoy the show if when we get all the statistics afterwards, they are up to our standard. Number 9 is really simple as well, and that is I think we should push Harley Cameron. Now, when I do say this, some of the criticism is, well, she's not very good in the ring. I couldn't give a flub. Now, one, she has got so much better in the ring over 2024 that surely putting her in bigger positions and with better wrestlers is only going to improve her further. But I also think she's pretty damn good, all things considered. Like, she's not of, I don't know, Kenny Omega level, but few people are. But the point is this, sometimes wrestling is more than just the wrestling. I know that sounds stupid, and of course your wrestling has to be amazing, especially in 2025. But, you know, if there was somebody else that was like a savant when it came to everything they were doing in the squared circle, but their promos weren't as good or their presentation wasn't as good, I don't think we would all of a sudden go, well, let's not do anything with them. It's like, no, let's push them and let's see where we get to. And I think it's the same with Harley Cameron. Now, yes, I say it again, I think some of the more horrible people in the world are way too mean about her in-ring work. Like I said, I think she's got way better, but her promos, her character work, the craziness that comes out when she does speak, she is just damn entertaining. And the fact she sings her own theme tune, and she was playing that guitar the other day in a promo, I just think we should try and take this all the way, and let's see where we end up. If it works, awesome, we have a brand new superstar. If it doesn't, who the flub cares? Like, really, I think it'd be just fine. But sometimes you can throw things at the wall and they don't stick, and you go, okay, well, we're going to move that person or whatever into this position, and we'll go and try something else. Like, that's why I actually really like modern wrestling at the moment, because when fans do latch onto something, both companies and the other ones too are actually giving people a go, and we're just letting it play out. Again, it's my old catchphrase. If you're going to have 52 weeks of wrestling programming a year, it cannot be the same old every time. And you'll probably already know the result to this by the time this video goes live. But that Powerhouse Hobbs angle we did at the end of Collision, where he just wrecked people, within that moment I was like, all right, at one point in 2025, if we can fit it in, he should absolutely be the world champion because he has that magic. And sometimes the only way to figure out if it is going to become a trick that everybody wants to see is to put them in that spot and go, hey ho, here we go. So I think Harley Cameron has paid her dues. She's put the time in. Now let's put her in a more prominent spot. I'm not saying to give her the world title, but maybe something with the TBS or something with whatever else has got going on. Maybe even if it's just like not a successful run, but an impressive run in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. She doesn't have to win it, but as long as she's being used more and more, I just think that All Elite Wrestling as a company is going to benefit. And number 8 is something that I'm hoping is going to be rectified soon. Rectified's a bit strong. I don't think the tag team division was that great in 2024 AEW. Or should I say, if we're going to measure this on a curve, like if you go back to 2019, 2020, 2021, especially 2021, the tag team scene was on so much fire, which is not a sentence. Many people are like, oh my gosh, one day it's probably going to main event a pay-per-view and could even become a staple of that. And it's absolutely something you do want to lean into because, again, it can separate you from what other promotions are doing. And look, we did have the Sting, Darby Allin versus the Young Bucks match, which is one of my favorite matches of the year. So it's too hard to crap on it all together. But it did feel like there was sort of a big month period when the belts weren't being featured that much. And it wasn't really sure who was going to be the number contenders for it. And it was great that Private Party won it towards the end of the year. And I enjoyed all their stuff with Action Andretti and Leo Rush, but I always think that we can do more. Do you know what I mean? Like, they should be considered prominent championships. I'm not 100% sure we're there at the moment. However, on a recent episode of AEW Dynamite, who got in Private Party's face? It was the Hurt Syndicate. I know you're now crying over their ex-WWE guys. They had to work somewhere. WWE was the only sort of big time contract for 20 years. Really don't have a problem with it. And I get it. There's a whole conversation about whether or not if you have too many ex-WWE guys or too many veterans, I suppose, that ruins the coolness of the company. Maybe I'm just a massive nerd because I don't see that. But again, you can get in the comments and tell me what an idiot I am. Please do subscribe. That would be fun. But there is absolutely a way to merge all that together. If the Hurt Syndicate won the belts, not a problem with that at all. In fact, I'd be damn excited about it. Keep, involving Private Party. We mentioned Leo Rush and Action Andretti. I think the Acclaimed are probably done. But there's a bunch of people right now that are in cool tag teams. And I think we could do more with them. And again, because AEW does have its own style, specifically when it comes to the tag team scene, and the Young Bucks do have to come back. And also, you could make Buddy Murphy and Brody King like a kick-ass tag team in 2025, given that it does sound like Malachi Black is going back to WWE. There is, going to use that word again, tons of potential, and that's a good thing. We didn't do it in 2024, or at least not to the level that I thought, but it just means you can do all the better in 2025, and we've proven that it is possible. Let's try and do it again. Number 7 is a boring one because everybody is saying it, but sometimes things become boring because they're just a real thing we want to see happen. I think if there is a way to make Kenny Omega the champion, well, we should probably do that. Now, again, the criticism I saw instantly was, well, it's not going to change AEW's fortunes. Well, by that logic, you may as well just lay down and die if you're not going to switch things around. You can't both go, oh, they need to do something new, and they do something new. You go, oh, but not that. You have to wait and see. The worst phrase in wrestling because it's been done to death. But sometimes you do have to allow things to play out. And when Kenny Omega, returned either on that Dynamite or on the New Japan show a few days before, I guess it was an AEW New Japan show, it just has the aura, man, to use the 2025 word. Now, I don't think this means that AEW just throw their story out with the Death Riders. I understand it's become very controversial and very divisive. Once again, as a fan, I love that. I'm kind of in the same camp as you. Sometimes I do like it, sometimes I don't really get it, but I love having the chat. I love having the conversation. Of course, I want everything on wrestling television, regardless of what 3 letters are above the marquee, to be good, but that's not realistic, especially because we all have different tastes. But I do believe that anyone who is into the AEW style, once again, to use all the buzzwords, can just feel it with Kenny, even if he is actually operating at 85% since he came back from the horrific injury, and thank goodness he is okay. He's so good you wouldn't even notice. I don't know what Ken thinks about this, but I think he's not only one of the best wrestlers in the world, I think he's one of the best of all time. I think he's generational, and I think probably he will have a run in WWE because that's how these things work. And then when the crazies calm down, because he has finally worked there, I think he will get his due. But given that he has just come off this horrific ride and we never really know what's going to happen in wrestling, it can be really scary at times. I think you've got to make him the super duper whooper babyface mega champion. I really liked heel Kenny Omega when he was the dude. I thought that was awesome. And I think maybe we've forgotten how funny and entertaining that was. But it just means we've never done the superhero version or the Final Fantasy Final Boss version that we often get in New Japan in AEW. So I think even if we have to go through Darby or whoever else is going to win it, I mentioned Hobbs, whatever, I think there should be a plan down the line, maybe towards the end of the year, to give him that belt and just let him not ride off into the sunset, but ride to the saloon and whoop everybody's ass. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just think when you have someone that special on the books, you have to treat them like they're special. And I actually think Kenny Omega said it best on one of the Twitch streams he was doing during his recovery, where, I may be paraphrasing here, and please do forgive me if I've got it wrong. I am an idiot. This does happen. But it felt to me like he was saying he would love to be presented like Roman Reigns. And of course, Roman Reigns in WWE is that end-of-level boss, somewhat ironic given what The Rock calls himself, but also every single one of his matches had gravitas. And I think that's what you want to give to Kenny Omega. Doesn't matter who he's fighting, he got the gravitas. Number 6 goes back to our championships. And yes, look, I said this on the WWE one. Everyone has too many belts, right? But that's the case. We've got to live with it, so we may as well embrace it. That's what they want to do, fine. Whoop bang, here's your uncle. But I do think we need to take the TNT Championship and rank it up a bit. No problem with Daniel Garcia being the champion. I think he's really good. I just think he needs to be featured more, which kind of goes back to our tag team title discussion. But this one has more history than the International and the Continental. I'd actually push those two together. And again, maybe that's something Kenny Omega and Okada can do, because it does sound like they're going to be fighting it all in. But given that the TNT title does have this incredible backlog you can now go into, especially with the Max streaming in America, I don't think you want that to go by the wayside. I actually think you want to lean into it. Because don't forget, AEW is coming up to 6 years on this planet, which terrifies me because one day we're all going to be dead. And of course, that's not 20, 30, 40 years that WWE has or New Japan has. But even in its short lifespan, the TNT title has been there a while. It's gone through so many people. Obviously, Cody Rhodes had it, and now he doesn't even work for the company anymore. That's how long it has been around. So I do think you want to shine a bit of a spotlight with it throughout 2025. That doesn't mean take it off Daniel Garcia. It just means feature it more on Dynamite or Collision. I think sometimes we take unnecessary shots at Collision, but he needs to be in a long-term, hardcore story. To understand, the day I'm talking to you, he did have to have a random match with Shibata on that Collision because nobody can make it to the show through travel issues or whatever it was. I think maybe it was the LA Fires, and of course, shout out to everyone being involved with that, but I'm not 100% sure. But now I think we need to sit down and we need to, let's just go to All In. That's only 6 months away. Who's he going to be fighting at All In? And then we can work backwards. We can tell a great story and we get that TNT title over as something that people want to fight for. And I do think it's still there. I just don't think it's as apparent as it once was. So if something is going in the wrong way, you want to try and reverse it. So again, it only takes a few weeks, again, be it a video package or just receiving more time on something like Dynamite, which is considered the flagship show. But there is definitely more that we can give to this, so we must treat it like a child. And I accidentally gave away number 5 there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was ranting and raving. Yes, I would push the International and the Continental belts together. I mean, you can't call it the Intercontinental title because you'll wind everybody up. Call it the Continental International title, the CI title, right? I mean, does it really matter? No. There's only so many names. Call it whatever the flub you want. I don't care. Call it the La-di-da Championship, right? Everyone can walk around and go, well, La-di-da. It'd be really sarcastic like British people. But, you know, it's not a huge deal. But I just think Okada having that championship means the TNT can then operate in its own space. And then this one can be shifted over here as well. Especially because sometimes, I know that Okada is the Continental Champion. But sometimes I do sit down and I stare off into space. I'm like, I don't remember who the International Champion is. Now, of course, there is a positive to this because Takeshita has that championship at the moment. And Takeshita is a guy that absolutely should be receiving the big push in 2025. But I just think sometimes less is more, right? And again, I said the same thing on the WWE video, so don't want people going crazy. But I just think it would allow AEW maybe to have more of a specific focus as opposed with everybody coming out with a title and people getting a little bit confused. But there is an easy way to argue that one. Because if everybody is in big feuds and there is a title and all of a sudden all the titles feel important, then you're doing it right. Was it Paul Heyman that said this? Probably. Paul Heyman is a genius, as we know. But he said, you know, if you have 13 titles and all those 13 titles are cared about, then you probably should add a 14th. And if you have 13 titles and no one cares about 7, well, drop 7 of them. And I do care about the International title because, again, I want to see Takeshita do well. But I do think on some episodes, be it the Continental or the TNT or the International, it probably goes back to our last point. Maybe one of the reasons we did lose the allure with the TNT is just because you could see more people with the shiny prizes and your brain automatically forgets it. So I do think it would be of benefit. Do I think they're going to do it? No. But again, when I was writing that list, I just thought it could be a benefit. And listen, they have listened to their fans a lot. I don't think Tony Khan gets enough credit for that. So it could happen. And if it did, I think it would be good. Number 4 is me just squeezing way too many people into the world title scene. But given that he does get the biggest pops on the show, and given that he does feel like the company's best babyface, you do not want to miss your mark too much, and making Will Ospreay the world champion at some point within the next 12 months, I think would be a huge boost in the arm. Because I think most people see him as a tippity top star, but there will always be some people on the fence just from watching the television. And if he does win that championship in what will be an awesome match, because Will Ospreay only knows how to have awesome Will Ospreay matches, then I think you crown him, he has a moment, and all of a sudden maybe the company goes through a shift in terms of its roster and how people are observing it, and he can sort of enter that stratosphere. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a guy I really want to cheer, and it's a guy I really want to get behind. Now, it's difficult because AEW, rightfully so, likes its champions to have long reigns. I don't think we should be hot potatoing the belt, but I think at some point you probably could shorten them a little bit just to do something different. Now, don't do something different for the sake of doing something different, but if you sit down and plan it out and go, well, again, we just want to shock a few people in a good way to wake people up so we don't fall into a malaise, it's a good way to do it, and you can always get away with it a lot long as you have a plan. I don't want to drag WCW up, but one of the reasons that WCW died from a fan care point of view is the way they threw around that title they just didn't give a damn. I think it's the start of 2001. I think it changed hands 4 times in 3 months or something bonkers. And of course, Vince Russo not only won it when Goldberg speared him through a cage, which just happened to hit the floor, but he never lost it. He vacated it. So then you're like, well, that's just a piece of tin. Who would give a damn? Whereas the AEW World Championship absolutely has importance attached to it because, again, we have been so reserved. And don't do it if, it's going to just be something to do. But I just think there's a list of people that probably should be having a championship run soon. Kenny Omega is one. Will Ospreay is one. I don't have him in this list, but I think that Hangman Adam Page should probably be moved into that, at least the title scene at some point, because everybody loves that guy. But Will Ospreay, I think, needs his crowning moment. Again, it kind of happened to him in New Japan. Everyone knew he was good. Everyone knew he was the guy. But we really knew he was the guy when he won the IWGP Championship. And number 3, to be a massive hypocrite, but, I don't know what's going to happen. If we are going to keep all these championships, someone that does need to get one is flipping Ricochet. I'd even change his name to Rick. Now, that sounds dumb, and you'll be laughing at me going, Simon, they just did the cope thing. But have you seen that recent image they put out advertising him speaking on Dynamite? He looks like a different person. Don't call him Rich. That's the stupidest thing I've ever said in my world. But man, I think this guy deserves all the credit in the world, and AEW does too. Because while it took us a few weeks to get there, he has completely changed his personality to the point I look at this, or whatever the damp's over that side, isn't it? I don't know. And he looks like a different person. And that is because his attitude has shifted, and mostly because he took some scissors and he stabbed Swerve Strickland in the head. But I don't care if he beats Swerve, I don't care if he loses to Swerve, whatever. Once again, I just think you need that story in there, that at All In or even a Full Gear at the end of the year, make sure this guy gets a championship in 2025. Now, I would not leave it till the end of the year. Now I've said that because I think he has the momentum now. So hopefully we can strike on that in the next 4 months. But this is a huge success story. Again, I can't believe he went to AEW. Get over it, man. He's a human being. He's allowed to change his job. But right now, we're on the cusp of something. And I felt it when he got mugged off by the Hurt Business. And then we had those few weeks of him being an absolute troll and then turning into a hitman from 1976. So keep the look. I mean, maybe come up with a different name. Maybe be Rick Shea. This is why I don't get asked to book wrestling shows. But absolutely, just to crown this off, and so Ricochet can be like, well, this is why I turned bad guy, or this is why I did shift my personality, because it worked, man. And I've talked about that with heel turns until the end of time. If you are going to change your total moral compass, you have to have something for show of it. Otherwise, you just look like a bit of an idiot. Number 2 kind of ties into the Dynamite that is going down in a few hours. Hopefully I get out before that Dynamite on the 15th of January, but you do not know. I don't care how you do it. Again, I kind of talked about this earlier. Just make sure that we push the absolute sheer bat of Powerhouse Hobbs. Because he's different, he's a powerhouse, he's strong. When he cuts a promo, you're like, man, I don't think this guy's lying to me. I think everything he's saying is true. And he's come back from adversity a couple of times now, including that horrific knee injury that he did suffer in 2024. I just think this dude has got it. To the point, I don't even think we need to push it, and we don't need to go on about it too much. I just think he's someone that you should run the gambit with, and you should experiment with. Even if he beat John Moxley later, I'd be cool with it. He could actually be a guy that won later and lost it back in a couple of weeks, whenever the hell the next big show is. Maybe it's the Australian show. I just think that would be a great way to kind of test the waters. We sort of, and not really, did it when Chris Jericho won the world title from Triple H, and then we reverse it by the end of the show because Earl Hebner hadn't obeyed the rules. I think that was great for Chris Jericho's career because the pop he got not only told management, oh my gosh, we can go with him, but it made the fans believe in him more because like, well, they gave us a tease. I'm sure they'll give us the real deal, and I just think Powerhouse Hobbs ticks a lot of boxes that make him unique in AEW, which is the best thing ever. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. That dude has been smashing it recently. Maybe he's another guy that could benefit from all the championships. He should have a long old run, and yeah, I want to be that guy. I don't want to be reductive, but you probably should book him like Goldberg. And number 1, I think, is the most important thing we can do in 2025, and this is no disrespect to anyone that does have the championship right now, because I think both Mercedes Moné and Mariah May are doing a great job, but yeah, probably by the middle of the year, Willow Nightingale should be the women's world champion because she is just the ultimate babyface. I hate comparing the two companies, but it's just a good way to do it. Cody Rhodes, man, is just this white meat, lovable babyface. Oh my gosh, you work so hard and you're such a good person, right? I just want to be your friend. Same with Willow Nightingale. Her catchphrase is basically, I smile a lot, man. Because I'm super duper happy, and nobody is poo-pooing on that. No one is like, oh my God, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We love it because she makes us feel warm and fuzzy in our tum-tums, and when you do have that, I absolutely, once again, I repeat myself, think you have to capitalize on it. And I understand that you want to get Toni Storm back in there too. She's smashing it, hitting home runs. And I just wouldn't do the Mercedes Moné thing because I kind of think we've done that feud. And I just think it would be way better if she doesn't have to beat Mariah May. Again, you can go through a few other people first. But I just think at some point she wins the world championship, which should always be considered above the TBS TBS championship, just given the names and how wrestling works. And then you run with her hard for 6 months and she's beating people, and maybe you put in the John Cena role where she's fighting from underneath, but because we do love her, we're like, oh my gosh, she's going to do it, and she does it every time. I really think there could be something in this, and I think she is someone that could bring new viewers in because she's different and she's bubbly and she's nice, and that kind of seems to be the way of the world sometimes in 2025, or it's what we're searching for. And I think WWE is very good at reflecting society, so when you can't find it in the real world, you go to the world of sports entertainment and you go, I get it from here as well. I just think it's a rarity to have someone who is just being a good dude. You can appreciate that rather than what we'd done 10 years ago, which we did do. We hate you, you stupid goody two-shoes. So 2025, I think I've said this in front of somebody else. You have to forgive me. It should be her year, and we should go all in. And also, she doesn't have bad wrestling matches. And I think the reason she was able to elevate herself in 2024 is because she got more mic time. Give her even more mic time in 2025. Give her a proper feud that she can sink her teeth into for 2 or 3 matches. Eventually, she wins that world championship. You know she's going to have banger after banger after banger again. Go back to the Chris Statlander match at All Out. You can't fluke that, man. It proves you have talent in your toes. And as an extra one, make sure we do the same to Chris Statlander too, because she's got it all. But this Willow Nightingale, man, in many ways, she come out of nowhere. It was about sort of 18 months ago, maybe a year ago, where everyone was all of a sudden like, this person's interesting, but the interest hasn't died down. If anything, it's bigger than ever. And I think, let's just say it is Mariah May, although I don't think it will be. If you really could build that up for a good, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, how much TV time you have, and just really get it over. Listen, we're going to do this, guys, and you want to be here for this big celebration, and maybe have it main event a show or a pay-per-view. Why the hell not, man? Let's get that message across. I just believe, dude. You want to know why I believe? Because she believes, therefore I believe. That's called human maths. No, you don't agree with me, so make sure you get in the comments below and let me know what you do think and what you would change. Click the video on the screen, which is my 10 things I think WWE should do. Please do subscribe, like the video, share the video, and just interact as much as possible. Go into that description. You can follow me on social media, grillermind.com/Simon. Use code Simon, get 10% off. There is 25% off specific pre-workouts right now. Best pre-workout in the game. Not even going to pretend anymore, and it does help the channel. Same with ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller, and I'm everywhere else too. You can get your cameos. Just search for Simon Miller. Again, just interact. Do what you want to do, but most importantly, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you on the next one.